All right, welcome to The Explainer. If you are a fan of deep dives that break down complex concepts and summarize iconic books, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're unearthing John Gray's legendary relationship framework. It's this fascinating, kind of wild model that essentially treats men and women like they are entirely different alien species, all to help us finally figure out how to understand one another. So, let me ask you this. Why do the people we love the most frustrate us the absolutely fastest? It's a deeply relatable, universal problem, right? Okay, let's dive into this by starting with a real-life anecdote from the author himself. See, John Gray thought he was a pretty solid husband until one incredibly stressful day completely shattered that illusion and literally changed his life forever. Picture this. It's a week after his daughter was born, and Gray and his wife Bonnie are just completely, utterly exhausted. Bonnie was recovering from a super difficult delivery and was in a ton of pain. Well, one day, while Gray was at work, she ran out of painkillers. A visiting family member completely forgot to pick them up, basically leaving her stranded in bed in pure agony all day long. When Gray finally got home, man, they hit a breaking point. He got defensive, he got angry, and his absolute default instinct as a man was to simply walk away from the conflict, just remove himself. But then Bonnie stopped him. With tears in her eyes, she told him he was a fair-weather friend, only there when she was sweet and happy. She practically pleaded, "I just need to feel your arms around me. Please don't go." And right then, Gray just stopped. He held her, and she wept in his arms. In that exact moment, he had this massive, mind-blowing epiphany. It hit him that, as a guy, he just didn't intuitively know that simple touching, holding, and listening were exactly what she needed. His first instinct was always to either argue the facts or just leave the room entirely. He had literally no idea that unconditional love, at least in that specific moment, meant just listening. No fixing, no solving, just listening. And this very realization is what birthed the entire Mars and Venus concept we're exploring today. That brings us straight to Section 1, Selective Amnesia, Forgetting Our Origins. So, the premise of Gray's foundational book is really fun, but honestly, it's pretty profound. I want you to imagine that Martians and Venusians lived in perfect harmony on their respective planets. Eventually, they met, they fell in love, and they absolutely reveled in their differences. Then they decided to fly to Earth together. But once they got here, the Earth's atmosphere sort of took hold. They woke up with what Gray calls selective amnesia. This is the crucial phenomenon where men and women completely forget they are from different planets. So, from that morning onward, they falsely expect the opposite sex to think, feel, and react exactly like they do. I mean, think about it. All of our unnecessary friction, all of the completely avoidable conflict in our relationships, it all stems from this one amnesic assumption. We mistakenly expect our partners to want exactly what we want. Let's see how this builds into our first major psychological breakdown in Section 2, Caves versus Circles, Dealing with Stress. When a Martian, a man, is stressed out, his absolute immediate reaction is to retreat to his cave. He pulls away, goes silent, and just mulls over his problems so he can solve them entirely alone. He doesn't want to talk about it, he wants to fix it internally. But when a Venusian, a woman, is stressed, she forms a circle. She instinctively needs to talk. She has to share her feelings to find relief. So you can easily see the collision course happening here, right? A Martian retreating silently absolutely terrifies a Venusian because, on her planet, you never ever abandon a friend who is upset. Meanwhile, a Venusian's intense need to talk and share problems completely overwhelms a Martian who is just trying to find some peace, quiet, and an isolated solution. And this leads directly into their competing philosophies. Men act as Mr. Fix-It. Their whole motto is, don't fix it unless it's broken. Women, on the other hand, act as the Home Improvement Committee. Their motto, when something works, it can always work better. So think about what happens when a woman offers unsolicited advice to help improve a man. To him, it feels like a totally humiliating attack on his competence. He literally feels like she's saying he is broken. On the flip side, when a woman talks about her feelings, and a man immediately throws on his Mr. Fix-It hat to offer cold, calculated solutions, well, it completely invalidates her feelings. She wasn't looking for a repairman, she just wanted to be heard. So what actually drives them when things are going well? That brings us to Section 3, Motivation Needed versus Cherished. The absolute core difference here is this. Martians are motivated, empowered, and totally energized when they feel trusted and needed. If a guy doesn't feel needed, he gradually becomes passive. He just loses his energy. Venusians, however, are motivated and fulfilled when they feel respected and cherished. If a woman doesn't feel cherished, she becomes compulsively responsible and just totally exhausted from overgiving. Basically, men need to feel like they are making a real difference, while women need to feel like loving help is always on the way. There's this really great quote from the source text that sums it up perfectly. Where the Martians were hard, the Venusians were soft. Where the Martians were angular, the Venusians were round. We have to remember that these stark contrasts weren't originally a source of annoyance. Actually, they were the exact things that magically attracted the two species to each other in the first place. The differences are meant to complement, not to compete. So, to stop competing, we need to learn how to translate. Let's look at Section 4, Different Languages, Translating Planets. What is absolutely fascinating here is the translation dictionary. Venusians use these dramatic generalities to express the sheer depth of their feelings. But Martians, they take everything literally. Like, literally. So when a Venusian says, "No one listens to me anymore," she is just expressing a momentary feeling of isolation. It's a feeling. But the Martian takes it literally. He hears a totally factual attack on his competence. He thinks she's saying, "You don't listen, you are a boring person, you are failing me." By simply understanding that Venusian language is emotional and dramatic, Martians can actually stop taking these phrases as a literal, factual attacks. Game changer, right? And then on the flip side, we have the totally terrifying phenomenon of the Martian silence. A guy will often just suddenly stop communicating and go completely silent. Now, to a woman whose primary way of processing is talking things out loud, this is completely unheard of. She wildly misinterprets his silence as, "Oh no, he hates me, he doesn't care about me, he's leaving me forever." But in reality, a Martian silence simply means, "Hey, I don't know what to say yet, but I am thinking about it." He's just processing information deep inside his cave. Okay, so we've covered stress, we've covered motivation, and language. Now for Section 5, the ultimate takeaway, surviving Earth. We can essentially distill all of Gray's work into a few golden rules. First, you absolutely have to recognize that we are fundamentally different. Second, and honestly, this is the massive one, stop offering the method of caring that you prefer and start offering what your partner actually needs. I want you to be really honest with yourself right now about those last 2 points. Do you let the Martians in your life go to their caves without chasing them down the hall? And do you listen to the Venetians in your life without immediately throwing on the Mr. Fix-It hat and invalidating their feelings? It really all comes down to this one final provocative thought. Are you communicating in your partner's language, or are you just yelling louder in your own? Take a hard look at your own relationships tonight. Remember the selective amnesia. Remember that we are literally from different planets. Because once you truly accept that, you can finally stop fighting the differences and start actually enjoying them again. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you some powerful new tools to translate the language of the people you love the most. See you next time.